The envelope slipped under Rachel Vaughn's apartment door at exactly 2:47 a.m., and she only knew the time because she had been awake, staring at her ceiling, trying to convince herself the footsteps in the hallway were just her imagination. They were not. When morning came and she found the photographs of herself sleeping, taken through her bedroom window from what must have been a ladder pressed against the building, she finally admitted she needed help that went beyond filing another police report. Rachel worked as a pastry chef at Millionaire, one of the most exclusive restaurants in Manhattan. Her hands created delicate sugar sculptures and perfect macarons that wealthy patrons paid hundreds of dollars to experience. She loved her work, the precision and artistry of it, but lately she could barely focus. Every shadow in the kitchen made her jump. Every delivery person who came to the back entrance made her heart race. The stalking had started 3 months ago with love letters left on her car. Then flowers at her workplace. Then the messages, hundreds of them, from different numbers and email addresses. The police had been sympathetic but ultimately unhelpful. No direct threats meant no real action. Just document everything and be careful, they said. She was documenting. She was being careful. She was also terrified. That Friday night, Rachel stayed late at Millionaire to prepare for a wedding reception the next day. The head chef had already left, trusting her with the kitchen. She was piping buttercream roses onto a practice cake when the back door rattled. Not the sound of wind, the sound of someone testing the lock. Rachel froze, piping bag suspended in midair. The door rattled again, more insistently. "I know you are in there, Rachel." The voice was muffled but audible, male, unfamiliar. "Why do you keep ignoring me? I love you." Her phone was across the kitchen on the counter. She set down the piping bag with trembling hands and started moving toward it. "I saw you earlier. You looked so beautiful in that blue sweater. You always look beautiful." She grabbed her phone and dialed 911, whispering her location to the operator. The rattling stopped. Footsteps retreated down the alley. By the time the police arrived 15 minutes later, there was no one there. No cameras in the alley, no evidence beyond her statement. "You should have someone walk you to your car," the older officer suggested, not unkindly. "Maybe stay with family for a while." Rachel's parents had retired to Florida 2 years ago. Her brother lived in Seattle with his wife and new baby. She had friends, but how could she ask them to put themselves in danger? How long could she impose before she wore out every welcome? She left the restaurant at midnight with a police escort to her car, drove home checking her rearview mirror obsessively, and parked under the brightest streetlight she could find. Her apartment building had security, but it was just old Mr. Patterson at a desk in the lobby, and he fell asleep most nights after 10. Rachel made it to her door without incident. She locked herself inside, checked every window, every closet under the bed. Then she sat on her couch and finally let herself cry. The next morning, exhausted and running on 2 hours of fitful sleep, Rachel arrived at Millionaire to find her boss, Gerald, waiting with a concerned expression and a man she had never seen before. The stranger was tall, probably 6'3", with dark hair and darker eyes. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent, and he stood with the kind of casual confidence that came from never having to worry about much of anything. Gerald, usually unflappable, looked almost nervous. "Rachel, this is Nathan Cross," Gerald said. "He owns the building." Rachel blinked. She had worked at Millionaire for 4 years and had never met the building's owner. She knew the restaurant paid astronomical rent for the prime location and that their landlord owned half the commercial real estate in this neighborhood, but he had always been a distant figure, relevant only when lease renewals came around. "Mr. Cross," she managed. "Nathan, please." His voice was deep and steady. He extended his hand and she shook it, confused. "Gerald told me what happened last night. I reviewed the security footage from the street cameras. I did not realize we had street cameras. I had them installed last year. They are subtle." Nathan pulled out his phone and showed her a video. The image was clear despite the darkness. A man in a dark hoodie, face partially visible as he looked up at one point. Average height, thin build, pale skin, maybe late 20s. He approached the back door of Luminaire and rattled it, spoke toward it, then left the alley heading west. Rachel's breath caught. "That is him. Did you give this to the police?" "I sent it over this morning, but I wanted to talk to you directly." Nathan's expression was serious, almost grim. "I have dealt with stalking situations before. A friend went through something similar. The police are limited in what they can do until the situation escalates, and by then sometimes it is too late. I would like to help if you will let me." "Help how?" Rachel asked carefully. Rich men offering help often came with strings attached, expectations she had no interest in meeting. Additional security measures. A new lock for your apartment, cameras, a personal security detail if necessary. I have a team that handles this sort of thing for my company's executives. They are discreet and effective. Rachel shook her head. I cannot afford anything like that. I am not asking you to pay. Gerald says you are the best pastry chef he has ever worked with, and you are being terrorized by someone who targeted you at my property. That makes it my responsibility. Nathan's tone left no room for argument, but his eyes were kind. At least let me have someone check your apartment security. No cost, no obligation. Gerald touched her arm gently. Rachel, let him help, please. We are all worried about you. She wanted to refuse on principle, to insist she could handle this herself. But she was so tired and so scared, and this man was offering her something the police could not, actual protection. Okay, she said quietly. Thank you. Nathan nodded. I will have my head of security, Marcus, contact you today. He will coordinate everything. And Rachel. He waited until she met his eyes. This is not your fault, none of it. Do not let anyone make you feel like you brought this on yourself. Something in her chest loosened slightly. She had been blaming herself, wondering if she had been too friendly to a customer, too careless with her privacy online. Hearing someone say it was not her fault mattered more than she expected. Thank you, she said again. Nathan left his card, shook Gerald's hand, and departed. Rachel stared at the card. Nathan Cross, CEO, Cross Development Group. She pulled out her phone and did a quick search. Nathan Cross was not just rich. He was a self-made millionaire who had built a real estate empire from nothing. Starting with a single run-down building, he renovated himself at 22. He was 34 now, unmarried according to the society pages, and frequently photographed at charity events. He also apparently funded a nonprofit that helped domestic violence survivors find safe housing. He is a good man, Gerald said, reading her thoughts. I have known him for 6 years. He could have raised our rent a dozen times but never has. Says he would rather have quality tenants than maximum profit. Rachel tucked the card into her pocket and tried to focus on the wedding cake that needed finishing. Marcus called her at noon. He was all business, asking detailed questions about the stalking, her routines, her apartment building security. He showed up at her apartment at 4 with a locksmith and a tech who installed cameras at her door and windows. They added motion sensor lights outside. Marcus himself walked the entire building, noting every entrance and exit, talking to Mr. Patterson about visitor protocols. You have my number now, Marcus said as he prepared to leave. Any concerns, any time you call. I will have someone monitoring your camera feeds. If anything unusual happens, we will know immediately. This is too much, Rachel protested weakly. Mr. Cross was very clear about priorities. Your safety is at the top of the list. After they left, Rachel sat in her apartment feeling strange. The new locks were solid, the cameras discreet but visible enough to be a deterrent. She felt marginally safer. She also felt like her life had been invaded by strangers, even well-meaning ones. Her phone buzzed. An unknown number, and her heart jumped before she saw the message. This is Nathan Cross. Marcus said everything is installed. Please do not hesitate to reach out if you need anything else. She saved the number and replied, Thank you for everything, I really appreciate it. His response came quickly. You are welcome, try to get some rest tonight. She did sleep that night better than she had in weeks. The flowers arrived at Luminaire on Monday. 3 dozen white roses with another note. You cannot hide from me forever. We are meant to be together. Rachel called Marcus immediately. He was there in 20 minutes, collecting the flowers and note as evidence, questioning the delivery service. The order had been placed online with a prepaid credit card. Another dead end. Nathan showed up an hour later, still in a business suit, looking furious in a controlled, dangerous way. "This stops now," he said. "Marcus is coordinating with the police to push for more action. I also hired a private investigator, someone I have used before, very good at his job." "You do not have to keep doing this," Rachel said, overwhelmed. "You barely know me." "I know enough." Nathan's intensity softened slightly. "I know you work 14-hour days creating art that most people consume in minutes. I know Gerald says you stay late to help the junior cooks learn techniques. I know you are dealing with something terrifying and you are still showing up, still doing your job. That takes courage." Rachel felt her eyes sting with unexpected tears. "I do not feel very courageous." "Courage is not the absence of fear, it is continuing despite it." He paused, then added more quietly, "Would you let me take you to dinner? Not tonight, you are probably exhausted, but sometime this week. Just to talk, get your mind off all this for a couple hours." She should say no. He was her landlord, sort of. He was way out of her league. He was probably just being nice because he felt responsible. "Okay," she heard herself say. "Thursday, I get off at 8. "Thursday at 8, Nathan confirmed, and his smile transformed his entire face from serious to genuinely warm. He picked her up at her apartment in a town car driven by someone named James, who Marcus had apparently vetted. Nathan wore dark jeans and a navy sweater, more casual than she had seen him, and he looked younger this way, more approachable. "I thought we could go somewhere quiet," he said as James pulled into traffic. "There is a small Italian place in Brooklyn I like. The owner does not care that I have money and the food is incredible." "That sounds perfect." The restaurant, Gianna's, was tucked into a side street with only a small sign marking its entrance. Inside was all warm lighting and exposed brick, with maybe 15 tables. An older woman spotted Nathan and rushed over, speaking rapid Italian and kissing both his cheeks. He responded in fluent Italian, laughing, and gestured to Rachel. "Gianna, this is Rachel. Rachel, Gianna owns this place with her husband Marco. Best pasta in New York." "Beautiful girl," Gianna said approvingly, switching to accented English. "You finally bring a beautiful girl. I get you the good table." The good table was in a corner with a view of the whole restaurant, private but not isolated. Gianna brought wine without asking, red and rich, and promised to bring them something special. "She seems to know you well," Rachel observed. "I have been coming here for 10 years. Back when I was renovating my first building, I would work until midnight and come here because Gianna stayed open late for the neighborhood. She fed me, refused to let me pay half the time, treated me like family." Nathan smiled at the memory. "When I made my first real money, I came back and tried to pay my tab. She told me I could never repay kindness with money, only with more kindness. So you bring her business by bringing dates here. I have never brought anyone here before actually." Rachel's heart did a small flip. "Why me?" "Honestly, because you feel real. My life is full of people who want something from me. Business deals, investments, social connections. You did not even know who I was when we met. And when I offered help, you tried to refuse because you do not like owing anyone. I respect that." The food arrived in waves. Pasta that melted on the tongue, braised lamb that fell off the bone, vegetables roasted with herbs Rachel could not identify but wanted to recreate. They talked between courses, easy conversation that ranged from her culinary training to his early days in real estate. "I bought this building in a terrible neighborhood for almost nothing," Nathan explained. "Everyone said I was crazy, but I saw potential. I spent a year doing renovations myself, learning plumbing and electrical work, making endless mistakes. When it was done, I rented out the commercial space below and the apartments above. Took 5 years to pay off the loan, but it taught me everything about the business. Do you still do any of the physical work? Sometimes. When I need to think, I will go to a property and do repairs. My staff thinks I am weird, but working with my hands clears my head. Rachel understood that. That is how I feel about baking. When everything else is chaos, I can lose myself in getting a recipe exactly right. What made you want to be a pastry chef, my grandmother? She was from France, came to America in the 60s. She used to make these elaborate desserts for every family gathering, and I would stand on a stool in her kitchen and watch. She taught me that pastry is edible architecture, that precision and creativity have to work together. Rachel smiled, remembering. She died when I was 16, but she gave me all her recipes and tools, told me I had the gift. She was right. They lingered over dessert, tiramisu that Gianna made specially. The restaurant emptied around them, but no one rushed them. Nathan told her about the nonprofit he funded, how his mother had escaped an abusive relationship when he was 8 and they had lived in a shelter for 6 months. That shelter saved our lives. Literally. My father was dangerous. After we got out, after Mom rebuilt her life, she always said she wanted to do the same for other women. She died of cancer before she could, so I do it for her. That is why you are helping me, Rachel realized, partly. Also because it is the right thing to do, and because I like you. Nathan met her eyes directly. I know this is complicated timing. I know you have enough stress without me adding to it, but I would like to see you again if you are interested. No pressure. Rachel knew it was probably a bad idea. Her life was a mess. She was being stalked. She needed to focus on staying safe, not on the way Nathan's eyes crinkled when he smiled or how safe she felt around him. I would like that too, she said anyway. He took her home, walked her to her door, waited while she unlocked it and checked inside. James will be available whenever you need a ride. Work, groceries, anywhere, Marcus has briefed him. Nathan, you cannot assign me a personal driver. I can and I did. Humor me, please, at least until they catch this guy. Rachel did not have the energy to argue. Thank you. For dinner, for everything? He hesitated, then leaned in and kissed her cheek, barely a brush of lips against skin. Sleep well, Rachel. She closed the door and touched her cheek, feeling like a teenager with a crush. The private investigator, a sharp-eyed woman named Linda, made progress quickly. She tracked the prepaid cards to purchases at the same convenience store, pulled footage, and got a clear image of the stalker. His name was Derek Simmons, 29, unemployed, with a history of mental health issues and one prior restraining order from a woman he had met at a coffee shop. He is escalating, Linda told them in a meeting at Nathan's office downtown. Rachel had taken the afternoon off, and she sat in a leather chair trying not to feel intimidated by the floor-to-ceiling windows with views of the city. The letters, the flowers, showing up at her workplace. Classic pattern. He has built a fantasy relationship in his mind, and he is getting frustrated that she is not reciprocating. What do we do? Rachel asked. The police have enough now for a restraining order and a warrant. They are picking him up today. Linda slid a file across the desk to Nathan. But restraining orders are just paper. He violates it and he is dangerous. I recommend maintaining current security measures for at least 6 months. After Linda left, Nathan moved to sit next to Rachel instead of behind his desk. How are you holding up? I do not know. Relieved they know who he is, scared about what happens next, grateful for everything you have done. She turned to face him. Why are you doing all this? And please do not just say it is the right thing. Plenty of people know the right thing and do not do it. Nathan was quiet for a moment, choosing his words. When I was 8 and my father was hunting for us, I remember feeling helpless. My mom was terrified and I could not protect her. I could not do anything. I swore when I grew up I would never feel that powerless again. And I would help people who were in the same position we were. He took her hand, his grip warm and solid. You deserve to feel safe. You deserve to live your life without fear. If I can help make that happen, then all the money I have made actually means something. Rachel squeezed his hand. You are a good man, Nathan Cross. I am trying to be. They arrested Derek Simmons at his apartment in Queens. He had walls covered with pictures of Rachel, printed from her social media accounts and taken with a telephoto lens. He had journals full of fantasies about their future together. He had a knife collection. The police charged him with stalking, harassment, and attempted breaking and entering. He made bail after 3 days. Rachel found out when Marcus called her at work. He is out. Restraining order is in place, but he could violate it. I want to increase security. Nathan called 5 minutes later. I want you to stay at my place. What? I have a penthouse with full security, doorman, cameras, the works. You would have your own room, complete privacy, but you would be safe. Nathan, that is too much. Rachel, please. I will not be able to sleep knowing you are vulnerable, just until the trial, until he is locked up for real. She wanted to say no. She barely knew him, had only been on one actual date. Moving into his place, even temporarily, felt like crossing too many lines. Okay, she said, because fear won out over pride. Nathan's penthouse was ridiculous. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, modern furniture that belonged in a magazine, a kitchen with appliances Rachel dreamed about. He showed her to a guest room that was larger than her entire apartment, with its own bathroom done in marble and glass. Make yourself at home. Seriously? Kitchen, television, anything you need. I work long hours, but I will be around in the evenings. He set her suitcase down, looking almost nervous. I want you to be comfortable here. This is surreal, Rachel admitted. Last month I was living my normal life. Now I am staying in a millionaire's penthouse because a stranger wants to hurt me. You are safe here, I promise. Living with Nathan was strange and surprisingly easy. He left early for work, came home around 7 most nights. They fell into a routine of cooking dinner together, Rachel teaching him techniques while he told her about his day. He was funny when he relaxed, with a dry wit that caught her off guard. He was also thoughtful in small ways, making sure her favorite tea was stocked, remembering she liked to read before bed and leaving new books on the kitchen counter. 2 weeks passed. Derek Simmons stayed away, at least visibly. Linder reported he was still posting about Rachel online under fake accounts, still obsessing. The restraining order kept him physically distant but did nothing for his mental state. Rachel tried to return to normal, going to work with James driving her, seeing friends for coffee in public places. But she felt like she was waiting for the other shoe to drop. It dropped on a Tuesday night when she was alone in Nathan's apartment. He had a late meeting and Rachel was making bread, needing dough to work out her anxiety. The doorman called up on the intercom. Miss Vaughn, there is a Derek Simmons here insisting he has a delivery for you. I told him you are not here, but he is refusing to leave. Rachel's blood went cold. Do not let him up. I am calling the police. She dialed 911 with shaking hands, then called Marcus, then Nathan. She moved away from the windows into the interior hallway, heart pounding so hard she felt sick. Nathan answered on the first ring. Rachel, he is here, downstairs. The police are coming, but Nathan, he found me. I am 10 minutes away. Stay away from windows, stay on the line with me. Those 10 minutes felt like hours. The doorman called again to say Derek had left when he saw the police arriving, heading east on foot. They were pursuing, but he knew the area, disappeared into the subway. Nathan burst through the door while Rachel was still talking to a police officer on the phone. He went straight to her, pulling her into his arms, and she let herself collapse against his chest. I have you. You are safe. I have you. The police arrived to take her statement. Derek had violated the restraining order. There was now a warrant for his arrest. They would find him. After everyone left, Nathan did not let go. They stood in his living room, her face pressed against his sweater, his arms around her like a shield. I cannot do this anymore, Rachel whispered. I cannot keep living in fear. You will not have to. I will make sure of it. She pulled back to look at him. You cannot promise that. You cannot control this. Watch me. Nathan made calls, a lot of calls. Within 2 days, he had coordinated with the police to set up a sting operation. They would use Rachel's social media to post that she would be at a specific location, a gallery opening in Chelsea. Derek had been monitoring her accounts obsessively. He would come. Rachel was not actually there, of course. She was at Nathan's penthouse with Marcus while undercover officers waited at the gallery. Nathan insisted on being there himself, wearing a wire, positioned where he could see everything. Linda called Rachel when it went down. They have him. He showed up at the gallery with a knife and a plan. Your boyfriend tackled him before he got within 10 feet of where he thought you would be. Police have him in custody now. Nathan tackled him. Apparently he played football in college. Derek is not a big guy. It was not even close. Nathan came home an hour later with a bandage on his hand where Derek's knife had caught him. Rachel met him at the door, furious and relieved, and something else she was not ready to name. You could have been seriously hurt, but I was not. And he is in custody, being held without bail this time. It is over, Rachel. You promised you would keep me safe, not put yourself in danger. She grabbed his injured hand gently, examining the bandage. You are an idiot. Probably, but he was going there planning to hurt you. Even if you were not actually there, the idea of it made me see red. I was not thinking clearly. No, you were not. She looked up at him, at this man who had appended his life for hers, who had given her safety and kindness and never asked for anything in return. Why did you do all this? Nathan cupped her face with his uninjured hand. Because somewhere between installing locks and teaching me how to properly dice an onion, I fell in love with you, and I could not stand the thought of anything happening to you. Rachel's breath caught. You love me, completely. Probably have since I saw you trying to be brave in Gerald's office. I know this started in the worst possible way, and I will understand if you need space now that the threat is over. But I had to tell you. She kissed him. Rose up on her toes and pressed her lips to his, pouring 3 months of fear and relief and unexpected joy into it. He responded immediately, his arms coming around her, lifting her slightly off the ground. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Rachel smiled. I love you too. I have been trying not to because the timing was terrible and I did not want to be the damsel who fell for her rescuer. But you are not just my rescuer. You are funny and kind, and you listen when I talk about the chemistry of meringue. You made me feel safe when I had forgotten what that felt like. So yes, I love you. Nathan kissed her again, softer this time, like a promise. Move in with me. Actually move in, not just hiding from danger. I want you here because you want to be here. That is fast. We can take it slower if you want. I will wait as long as you need. Rachel thought about her tiny apartment that had never felt like home, not really. She thought about the last 3 months living here, cooking in this kitchen, falling asleep knowing Nathan was down the hall. She thought about the life they could build together. I do not want slower, I want this. I want you. The trial happened 4 months later. Derek Simmons pleaded guilty to stalking, harassment, attempted assault, and violating a restraining order. He was sentenced to 8 years in prison with mandatory psychiatric treatment. Rachel testified via video to avoid seeing him in person, Nathan holding her hand just off camera. When it was over, truly over, Rachel felt like she could breathe fully for the first time in a year. She officially moved into Nathan's penthouse, though most of her stuff was already there. She turned the second bedroom into a test kitchen where she developed new recipes. Nathan proposed on a Sunday morning while she was making croissants, getting down on one knee in the flour-dusted kitchen and offering her a ring with a diamond that caught the light like sugar crystals. Marry me. Let me spend the rest of my life keeping you safe and happy and supplied with good butter. Rachel laughed through happy tears. That is the most romantic thing anyone has ever said to me. Is that a yes? That is absolutely a yes. They married 8 months later in a small ceremony at Gianna's restaurant because it was where they had their first date and because Gianna cried happy tears and insisted on catering. Rachel wore a simple white dress and carried flowers that were not roses. Nathan wore a dark suit and could not stop smiling. Gerald gave her away, Marcus was Nathan's best man, and Linda caught the bouquet. Gianna fed everyone until they could not move, and Marco brought out wine from his private collection. It was perfect. Rachel kept working at Luminaire for 2 more years before opening her own pastry shop with Nathan's investment. They called it Simone's after her grandmother, and it became known for delicate French pastries and the occasional celebrity sighting when Nathan stopped by to steal cookies. On their second anniversary, Rachel found out she was pregnant. Nathan cried when she told him, actually cried, and spent the next 7 months reading parenting books and baby-proofing the penthouse. Their daughter, Emma, was born on a spring morning with her father's dark eyes and her mother's stubborn determination. 2 years later, their son arrived. They named him James, after the driver who had kept Rachel safe, and he inherited his mother's love of creating things with his hands. Nathan scaled back his hours to spend more time with his family. Rachel worked mornings at the shop and came home to chaos and love and the life she had never imagined having. On quiet evenings when the kids were asleep, they would sit on the couch with tea and talk about their days, and Rachel would think about how grateful she was that Nathan had walked into Luminaire when he did. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked him once. "Getting involved in all that mess?" Nathan pulled her closer, kissing her temple. "Never. You are the best thing that ever happened to me. Even though we met because someone was stalking me, we met because I own a building and care about my tenants. The stalking was unfortunate. Everything after was fate." Rachel smiled against his shoulder. Fate and an excessive amount of security measures, safety first. She turned to kiss him properly, tasting tea and contentment. "I love you. I love you too, always will," and he did. Through the years that followed, through every challenge and triumph, Nathan Cross kept the promise he made that first night. He protected her, not just from danger but from loneliness and doubt. He saved her, and then he kept saving her in 1,000 small ways every single day. And Rachel saved him right back, filling his too-empty penthouse with warmth and laughter, teaching him that the best things in life were not built or bought but created with patience and love. Their children grew up knowing they were cherished. Their business thrived. Their love deepened with time instead of fading. Some mornings, Rachel would wake up in their bedroom overlooking the park and watch Nathan sleep, his face peaceful in the early light. She would think about the terrified woman she had been, the one who could not sleep because of footsteps in the hallway. That woman felt like a stranger now, someone from another lifetime. Nathan would open his eyes and catch her watching, and he would smile, that smile reserved only for her. "Good morning, beautiful. Good morning." He would pull her close and she would settle into his arms, into the safety and love they had built together. The past would fade away, leaving only this: two people who had found each other in the darkness and chosen to walk into the light together. It was more than Rachel had ever hoped for. It was everything she had never known to dream about. And it started with a man who saw someone in trouble and decided to help, who kept helping until help became love, and love became forever. Their story was not about the stalker or the fear or the danger. Those were just the circumstances that brought them together. The real story was about what came after, about choosing each other every day, about building a life based on trust and respect and genuine affection. About a millionaire who proved that real wealth was measured in love given freely, and a pastry chef who showed him that the sweetest things in life could not be bought. Years later, when Emma asked how her parents met, Rachel and Nathan would exchange glances and smile. They had agreed to tell their children the truth when they were old enough to understand. For now, they kept it simple. "I was going through a difficult time," Rachel would say, "and your father helped me." "I fell in love with your mother's courage," Nathan would add. "And her exceptional pastries." Emma would giggle and demand cookies, and the moment would pass. But someday, when their daughter was older, they would tell her the whole story, about fear and danger and one person's decision to step in when he could have looked away. About love growing in unexpected places, strong enough to overcome trauma and build something beautiful. They would tell her that real love was not just romance and passion, though they had plenty of both. Real love was showing up every day, choosing your partner through difficulties and triumphs, building safety and trust brick by brick until you had created something unshakable. Nathan never stopped saving Rachel, and Rachel never stopped bringing light into Nathan's life. They saved each other in turns whenever one of them needed it, and that was the real secret to their happiness. Not grand gestures or dramatic rescues, though they had their share of both. Just two people committed to being there for each other, no matter what came their way. Their love story started with a millionaire protecting her from a stalker, stepping in to save her when she needed it most. But it became so much more than that. It became a lifetime of choosing each other, of building joy from fear, of proving that sometimes the darkest moments can lead to the brightest futures. And they lived happily ever after, not because everything was perfect, but because they made it perfect for each other, one day at a time for the rest of their lives.